much for tuning in. I just want to make some commentary about um, regimented eating versus intuitive eating. Now, the term intuitive eating may be new for a lot of people. It's something that, a term that I have recently come into the understanding of. However, it is something that I've desired for a long time. I, for a long time, have desired to be able to make my choices based on what my body is desiring versus looking at a list of things that I should do, a list of rules that I should follow. And at one point in my life, I had decided that I was going to eat intuitively. I figured if I eat when I'm hungry and I stop when I'm full, um, I should be okay, right? Because my hunger is what directs uh, what I should eat or when I should eat. And I really started to think that maybe I was obsessing a little too much about weight, and that maybe that obsession was driving the weight gain. So I said, okay, let me stop thinking about it. Let me stop worrying about it, and I'll just eat when I feel hungry. Well, I did that and ended up gaining a ton of weight. Yeah, gaining over 60, 70 pounds. And before that, it was just a struggle to stay at the weight where I was. I've had massive weight loss early in my adulthood, in my late teens, early 20s, and it was always a struggle. I was the most miserable thin person you knew, and I didn't understand why. I realized that the things that I was choosing to eat were harmful for me. I was trying pretty much going low fat, high carb, but I was trying all kinds of things. But I was miserable and just unhealthy, and at an unhealthy level of obsession over what I ate and ultra vigilant. And so I was correct in turning away from that way of being because we were never designed to be ultra vigilant about what goes in our mouth. It is not something that the Lord has intended for us. In fact, in Scripture it says, do not worry what you will eat or what you will wear. And so that's God explicitly saying that it is something that He will provide for and that He does not intend for us to be obsessed over. And so I was correct in turning away from that way, but I didn't understand why trying to rely on my hunger signals led me to gain so much weight until I came to realize that the signals that I've been given by the Creator, they're meant to work. there's nothing there's nothing wrong with it that you're born with. But what happens is that those signals get difficult in the environment that we are living in today with all the industrialized food, with the what I call the non-food edibles, NFE. Just because something is edible doesn't mean that it's food. All the ultra-processed, industrialized things that have taken months to get to you and have been completely denatured and changed, so you don't even recognize what the origin of the food was. So these things have had an effect on the system that is naturally designed to draw me to the foods that I should eat at the times when I should eat. And that reality, that intrinsic or that intuitive eating style was something that was not at my reach at the time. I was right in trying to attempt it, but I first needed to heal the way my system worked. I needed to repair the system before going on autopilot and allowing my intuition to drive my eating. So that's the difference between regimented eating and intuitive. Regimented is when you look at food as numbers, or you look at it for the effect it will have on you. You analyze it, you pre-plan it, um, and take it as a prescription. And intuitive eating is when it's just, I feel like having a smoothie, or I feel like, having a burger, or I feel like, you just feel it, and then you go after that feeling and satisfy that feeling. So these are two completely different worlds, two completely different approaches. Uh, my What I would like to submit to you is that it's not an either or situation. It's not a situation where I promote or I'm encouraging that you either regiment your diet and the things you eat and jot everything down, or just go with your feelings. It's not one or the other. The reality is that there is a gradient, there is a journey in between the two. This one would be ideal. It would be ideal for you to be able to intuitively know and go by your feelings as to what to eat. Because your food should be a secondary lifestyle, a second nature. It should be natural as breathing, as natural as the habits that you have installed early in your life, like brushing your teeth and hopefully making your bed and clothing yourself, things that you don't think about. They're completely second nature. Well, what you eat should be like that too. How you take care of yourself in that level should be like that. But unfortunately, for many of us, given the circumstances, that hasn't been the reality. So you have to bridge the two. And how do you do that? You go on a journey to repair that system. So you look at it from a healing motif. And once you repair that system, eventually you'll be crossing the divide along a gradient. More and more you will start to crave the things that your body needs, and more you will begin to trust your craving versus checking a list, or checking the numbers, or checking the scale to make sure that you're on track. And that brings me to a point that I just learned yesterday. What role does the numbers play? What role do the numbers play? Whether the amount of calories, or the macros, or the micros, or the scale, or the body fat percentage. What role does all that measurement play? It's not the focal point. It's not the focal point. Those measurements play the role of being indicators. What do they indicate? They indicate that we are being honest with our journey, that we really are making the effort to build lifestyle habits, and not necessarily just trying to follow some rules to get to an end point, because life is not an end point. It's something that you experience every day. So being able to, at the onset, guide myself by certain guidelines, general guidelines, and be able to try to work out a system that will allow me to fall within those guidelines as I transition, will allow me to stay honest with my journey. So that's what role numbers play. But ultimately, you're talking about the end goal being intuitive eating versus regimented eating. The end goal being eating well, being second nature to you. Eating well being something that is second nature to you, versus eating well being something that is a chore. And so that is what I'd like to share with you on this first installment of what I'd like to call Mind Matters. And I'd like to say that in matters of nutrition, in matters of exercise, and in matters of personal wellness, your mind matters. So thank you for tuning in.